Well, hello. So y'all will be getting this the week of Thanksgiving, and this will be the last week that we are doing this theme that we've been diving deep on in the community of, dancing with our fear. And I just I picked these themes for the community thinking like, what do my women need, right? And what a gift, or like an unexpected gift it has been for me this month as well to have this theme of dancing with fear, because literally that has been in my own personal work what has been coming up. And it's been so soul-filling, inspiring, to see how much having a specific theme, a specific focus and intention for the month has increased not only like my level of growth and how much I'm leaning into this, but as well, like the women in the community. And then I have a few women in the community that are also doing one-on-one coaching with me. And I just have to say, I have been blown away this month. Like, have gotten on so many one-on-one calls with my clients, watched so many like big steps in the community and been like, holy shit, what is going on? Like, hell yes. Getting off calls and being like this just constant feeling of like, who dis? Who dis? Because I'm working with women who just, a month ago, 2 months ago, were getting on totally overwhelmed, totally unsure of what their next steps were. And through these catalyzing forces, right, of getting to work with me or being in the community and just being validated and supported by other women, they're all of a sudden like, boom, let's go. And, really getting to see too how they've been dancing with fear really all along. Like so many of you that are now finding the podcast or that end up working with me or that end up in the community, you've been doing this work for a long time, or what I'm saying wouldn't resonate with you, right? You'd be on a podcast about how to keep your marriage, how to make it work. Or like I met someone on a 90-minute a couple weeks ago, which she'll know who she is. So hello, my love, who was talking about reading a book that was like how to stay in your marriage when you hate your husband or something. It was something of that ilk. And even on that message or on that coaching call, she was like, we're reading this book and I hate it. I really don't want to be doing this. And I was like, yeah, I feel you. I get it. I wouldn't want to be reading a book like that either. So to start off this episode, first off, this episode is going to be so fucking yummy. I cannot wait to talk with you about all of this. This episode directly comes out of what I was feeling this month, what I was seeing, the work I was doing, and just becoming really excited about this idea of fear being the very thing that can call you into your brilliance, like living the most brilliant life you could possibly imagine. Even as I say it, woo, I just get these like chills through my body. It's obviously like a life theme of mine, something I'm super, super passionate about. But I wanted to kick it off by really reflecting your own brilliance back out to all of you, that if you were not already dancing with fear, I don't think my podcast would resonate with you. Let me put it that way. So many of you are, I think at times, like thinking you're not seeing how much you are already doing the dance. This week, in fact, in the community, we did a workshop where, we did breakout rooms. So all the women were, paired off one-on-one with each other. And in those rooms, I had them each talk about, what steps they had taken getting to this point, and then like reflecting back each other's brilliance in like, you're already doing the dance. And it was so amazing to see all of them just like experience oh yeah, like I have already taken a lot of beautiful steps in this dance with fear. And at the end of that, workshop, they all picked like, okay, what's my next step? And I knew the power of what I could do in one-on-one coaching with clients, but it is a whole different, amazing, expansion for me to start seeing the power of community and, just getting really excited about what that means for the world, what that means for the impact that my work and this community that I have created and that these women are in, and that, many of you will get to join in the future, that the impact that is going to have, the impact you all will have on each other. And then from there, like the impact that ripples out, like, holy shit. I can't. This month, like I thought last month was amazing in the community. This month has blown my mind. And I'm just so excited for all that's to come. So another really special thing that kind of kicked me off on this theme this month, really led me deeper into my own reflections on fear, was after that last episode, I just had so many of you sign up for 90-minute intensives, which was so exciting. I have to tell you, every time you guys sign up for one, I get an email that tells me, and I get to see your name and I get to see the note that you've left me. And I get so excited about that moment of when I'm going to get to see you for that first moment face to face. And especially this last week, as I was meeting women on these 90 minutes for the first time, there was this gorgeous, and there often is at the beginning, this gorgeous moment of this woman that I've never met being like, oh my God, hi. I'm so glad I get to meet you. I feel like I know you. I've listened to all of the podcast episodes. And I was just really, I think I was in a space of receiving that more this week, and just really receiving a reflection back to me of my own brilliance and their gratitude at thank you for what you're putting out in the world. Thank you for being this voice. So, first off, thank you to all of you that have given me so many beautiful reflections of love and gratitude. It means so much to hear that. And also it inspired me. I kind of was like, I want to go back and read in, look at some of my journals. I just was getting a little bit introspective, what was I feeling? What was I thinking back then? What's my relationship with fear been like all along as I've gone through this journey? And y'all, I found this gem of a journal entry that I want to kick off this episode by reading to y'all. So this was back around, it's looking like March 24th of 2022. So to give you guys some framework with that, my divorce was finalized in September of 2019. So, it's over just a little bit over maybe 2.5 years post-divorce. Okay. And I think I'm just going to dive in, and I'm going to read it to you, and then I'll kind of frame out for you why I loved this episode, not this episode. Oh my gosh. My journal entries are not podcast episodes. They are journal entries. Okay. So here's where it starts. It says, listened to a Voxer from one of my clients. And when she said, quote, I'm so glad that I chose you, it just kind of struck me to my heart. I realized I want to feel, quote, chosen by my partners. To have my partners say, I'm so glad I chose you. To have him really understand and appreciate what it's like to be loved by me. So I'm going to keep reading in this, but I want to just provide some context to, at this point in my journey, I was dating, who is now one of my dearest best friends, Matt. I was dating him, but we reached a point in our relationship where I was feeling like I wanted something more, and we honestly, both of us weren't really feeling it in the relationship, but it was how do I communicate that? Where do we go from here? So there's a lot of journal entries with me, really feeling into this fear, trying to figure out what I want more, what I desire most. And this is the answer that I got to in this journal entry. I said, the answer to this is not to demand it from my partners or even ask for it, but instead to choose me. Because when I choose me and I feel chosen, I show up as all of me. And then they match that vibration or shift away. And then I ask myself the question, how can I choose myself even more? Get even clearer on what I love and most desire in my life and open to receive it. Trust my intuition and follow it. Say what I'm thinking and feeling. Choose love. Look in the mirror and tell myself, I'm so glad I chose you, B. Be proud of Britta Jo. Love her, see her, embrace all of her. Let go of needing to control things or understand what's going to happen in the future, and trust that I can just be. What I am is enough. Y'all, this is the work of what I've done with fear over and over and over, taking that fear and allowing it to call me even deeper into myself, to call me even deeper into the brilliance that is me. So that's what I really wanted to kick off this with, was taking you guys back to a moment in my life when I was also feeling fear, when I was also having to make a decision, when I didn't know, right? In 2022, I had no idea that this was what, that the partnership I have now was waiting for me. I just knew that what I had was not the exact fit that I was looking for, and that something else more aligned was calling to me, right? And I had to believe I get to choose to love me and want what I want. And if that's not what somebody else wants, that's okay. I'm still going to choose me. So one of the things that I want to drop in and kind of talk about is this idea that fear in many ways shows up in tandem with our soul calls. And what I saw this week and what I really felt in myself was that fear is often signaling to me where my greatest growth actually lies. And so even in the community, we were talking about this, where I was like, y'all, look back on the moments in your life that you are the most proud of, the moments that you are like, damn, look at that. And when we looked back, we were like, oh my God, in many instances, they were some of the scariest decisions that also ended up being our most transformative, the ones that showed us what we were capable of, that we look back now and we're like, wow, that was me, stepping up. And in hindsight, right? It's always the hindsight that we look back and we're like, oh, so worth it. I'd do it again, 100%. But if we go back to that moment where we were so afraid, we had no idea where it was going to take us, right? And the unknown feels so overwhelmingly big and dark and scary. I'm also having that image of Indiana Jones, right? When he just steps out into the void and then it turns out there's a path there. We have so many metaphors and examples of this throughout stories and throughout movies of this trust fall moment. This idea that often what we are most afraid of is kind of the thing that is standing guard at the doors of our soul's greatest growth. And that often there's some kind of illusion here, right? An illusion that it's going to be awful, or an illusion that it'll be the worst thing ever, or, with Indiana Jones, that he's going to fall to his death, when actually he steps and it turns out oh, there's a path there. I'm safe. So one of the things I want you all to consider in this episode is playing with starting to imagine your fears not as blocks or something you want to get rid of, right? I heard that quite a bit in the community, this idea that if I didn't have fear, life would be so much better. But I want to offer that instead of let's get rid of fear, using it as I'm going to even go so far as to use the word as like a sacred signal that is actually saying, hey, this is where you're meant to grow. And to do that, I want to take you into the tool that I use the most for myself, for my clients, to really be able to discern when, like, what that fear is and where it's coming from. Because I think there are fears that are like our CPTSD triggered fears. And then there are fears, which are what I'm talking about more in the episode of like the grounded, soul aligned fears. So I want to dive into the differences between those and really learning to trust your body as the access point when it comes to fear, of whether this fear is like trauma-induced, culturally programmed fear that's meant to like keep you small and keep you in a box. And seeing the image of like in Untamed by Glennon Doyle, right? That cheetah that's chasing the dirty bunny that once the cage is opened, like doesn't leave because it's just trained to stay there. And that's the kind of CPTSD induced kind of fear that I want you to be aware of versus this other kind. So when I'm talking about CPTSD triggered fear, this is, if you've read the book, this is where we're going into emotional flashback. This is when there's a trigger that has happened and it is flashing our body back to when we were a little kid. And so in that moment, it doesn't mean we're necessarily back in that experience, but we are back in the body experience of feeling hopeless, helpless, overwhelmed. I see this all the time for y'all in considering divorce. I cannot tell you how many, and so many, you're going to relate to this, so many women that I meet where the facts of the situation, right? For a lot of you, actually, like, you do have work. When you get divorced, there is actually going to be, some money that you'll be able to live off of. You do have the, abilities to go move out, or, your spouse is capable enough that they're going to be taking care of the kids half the time, right? Even in the best case scenarios, I see so many women that are still paralyzed by what I would consider this CPTSD triggered fear, which is not necessarily grounded in factual, like, this is really going to be dangerous or this could really hurt someone, as much as this overwhelming feeling that's coming from your childhood of, going through hard things and not having adults there to emotionally support you, not having someone to teach you that, like, here's what feelings are and here's how to process them. And this is really, and I resonate with this deeply because, as you all know, I have, I don't know if I'd call it severe, but I definitely have CPTSD, and I will get triggered. In fact, I did just the other day, Joe and I were talking about something that I really want, that's like been a soul call for me for a while. But as we were kind of dropping into it, I tend to go into a lot of fear whenever I'm thinking about doing something new that I've never done before. And that comes from my childhood trauma of being the oldest, being parentified, always needing to be perfect, always needing to like have everything together. The more put together I was, the more, quote, safe I felt around my parents. Now, that wasn't actually like real, but that was what my childhood brain had to construct to survive in the world I was in. Ergo, I often don't like trying new things where I'm not already in authority, or, when I try something and I'm not good at it immediately, I can go through a lot of negative emotions and feeling of like, I don't want to do this, or like, it could go really badly, or what, all the what ifs, right? That is, I think, a perfect example of checking in and realizing in those moments, which I was doing a lot of that, processing that with Joe yesterday, just being able to see like, this is not, this is not actually like soul inducing, excited, like fear that I'm experiencing, as much as it is a trauma response from my childhood of, ooh, scary, new things, bad, unknown, bad, because I won't be able to be perfect and keep everything under control. Yeah. So a good way to recognize this in your body is you will feel very up in your head when you're in this kind of space of the CPTSD triggered fear. Your brain will be zipping, zip, 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 zip. I had a client today. We were literally working on this exact thing where I kept bringing her back into her body and her brain would just whoop, pull her right back up into her head. And, you know, she described it as like really, really buzzy in her body, a lot of anxiety, a lot of franticness, her mind just going, how, like working through all the scenarios. A lot of, you know, some other ways that you can identify it. So not only will you be up in your head, but your body starts to feel very constricted. You can kind of go into like a freeze mode, or I will kind of get disassociated from my body. I may get really like spacey and out of my body. Or you may feel just like a desperate need to escape, like that, oh, I just want to run so bad. Get me away from this. And so with that in mind, I want to contrast that because I think it's really like super, super important for y'all to understand these different types of fear because the reality is if you want the biggest, most expansive, like a life you've never even imagined, okay, that life is absolutely like the path to that life is through moving towards rather than away the grounded, soul aligned fear. And this is the kind of fear that feels like an excited and simultaneously terrified hell yes. And I know y'all can learn I know you felt this at points in your life, but I know you can also definitely learn how to feel this. This is the kind of fear that like when you go towards it, you're like, oh shit. But you're also like, my soul, my chest is expanding and I'm like being called forward. There's this sense of stepping into something that is big and true. Yes, it terrifies you. Yes, you don't have any guarantees. Yes, you don't even know how it's going to work out because you're just taking the next big step. But some deeper knowing in your body is telling you like, this is where it's at. Come forward. And I tell y'all, I think I might be a little bit of an adrenaline junkie when it comes to fear because this is what I have like leaned into and gotten hooked on in life is like, okay, when I feel that way, it means this is a soul call and it may not make sense mentally, but I trust, as I'm going to go into in a second, that like there is something bigger here. So before I go into that though, I want to do a little exercise with you just to let you practice and kind of feel and give you a question that you can start using and playing with, especially like this week, like actually do this, try this out. But I want you to practice placing a hand up on your heart, or you can even place it on your stomach. Okay, either one. You can even do both. Hell, you can even do both. When you are experiencing fear, okay, you can use any one of those regions. You can use both of those regions. And then I want you to, while you're dropping down into your body, I want you to deepen your breath. And then ask yourself, is this fear coming from my past or my future? And if so, which one, right? If it is past or future, if it's from your future, checking in with like, is this my future self calling me forward? And I swear to y'all, this is like the quickest way to start moving your journey forward. Your head will keep you spinning for years, but when you start using this tool of like realizing this like excited, terrified, but like expansive moving forward feeling is the very like, it's just your soul calling you, that's when I see my clients start to get like we start to cruise when that happens. Things start to move because instead of going, ooh, icky, go away, all fear is bad, you realize, oh no, there's a fear that's definitely calling me forward. And this is where I want to take you guys into this idea that like, kind of what I said earlier, that there is this sacred role of fear in soul growth. I just love this idea. And that, this idea that we have of like, I wish fear would go away, or I wish I would never feel fear. Like, no, y'all, this is a key aspect of being human. And when you learn to start like, one, working through the CPTSD triggered fear, right? Which is where you're using those techniques from the book, being able to ground into yourself, connecting back in with your inner child, giving it what it needs. Then when this excited, terrified soul call fear comes in, you start to learn like, oh, this fear is just pointing towards an area of my life where like the healing and growth are going to be most potent. So let's fucking go. And you start framing it for yourself as an opportunity to really step into uncharted territory. And you guys know I'm so big on this idea of us being generational chain breakers and creating something new. And this is where, like, this is the heart and soul of how you do this. It is through changing the relationship you have with fear from one of like, ooh, fear, bad, I wish it wasn't here, it'd be so much easier if I didn't have it, to like, oh, there it is. I'm feeling alive. This is that like edge. I can tell this is calling me into one of my like soul themes in my life. And I think, many of you will notice when I talk about this generational healing, and I really think that for many of us, like whatever these soul paths we've been called on, they are like healing karma and like shit that has been passed down to us. I see it in so many of you that get on calls with me. You'll notice that a lot of the fears that women face are like, fear of being alone, fear of being judged, this fear of failure. Like all of those are tied to generational pain and societal conditioning. Like pretty deeply, y'all. Like I think of women, my mother, my grandmother, my great grandmother, like it wasn't that long ago that women couldn't be alone. Like you had to have a man to have a bank account. Branching out on your own and like failing literally meant like not making it. Or the fear of, I think back to like when that fear of judgment, right? Like there wasn't even a place in society for women who weren't married. So this is no small task that we are doing in changing this for ourselves, for the generations to come. And I just want to say that like, by facing these fears, you are not just healing yourself. I truly believe this. And I've seen it for myself. And I feel like I am the living example of this, because by facing my fears, I didn't just heal myself. I then am like now doing this work that is opening a different world for so many others. Like, not only do you heal yourself, but you rewrite a narrative for those who came before you. I think you reframed like their pain by us transmuting it and actually having a better world. And you change it for those who will come after you. Like, whoa, y'all. This is the scope of what I was trying to like give to my women this month in the community, of really saying it's so much bigger than you can imagine. It's so, that's why I shared that quote from my journal earlier of like that moment when I had a client be like, I'm so glad I picked you. And a little bit of me acknowledging and realizing, oh, and the women this week reaching out and be like, thank you so much. They get to thank me now because of all the fear I have leaned into over the last 6-7 years of my life of really going, okay, I'm going to listen to my soul first. I'm going to follow where it wants to take me. And to really also frame this out so beautifully. So in this journal entry as well, I had written down this gorgeous section from an oracle card. I'm not sure. I know the deck is either the Starseed or the Work Your Light oracles. And I'll have my assistant link them in the podcast show notes from Rebecca. I think it's Rebecca Campbell. Cannot recommend enough. I hope you all listening go buy at least one of those decks, because pulling a card from one of those decks every single day, for a while there, that was what I did. That was part of my, morning grounding practice, was so illuminating. It just helped reframe for me what I was doing. It gave me the perspective I needed. And I want to read and share whatever that card was that I'd pulled, because it was big enough that I actually wrote down it. And as I was reading it the other day, I was like, oh my God, this is exactly what I want them to get. So let's dive in. It says, the destiny life is the one our soul chooses, and it takes courage and faith. If you pull this card, it's because you're likely now face to face with the choice to follow the destiny life over the fated life, to trust the path your soul is calling you toward, and to remember this moment was prearranged on your life's timeline. You may find yourself at a crossroads, at a moment when you're being called to make a decision, to keep walking the perfectly laid out path before you, or choose the one less traveled. You may be facing a change of career, a new relationship, a difficult decision, or something else that requires courage and faith. Remember your soul's greatest plan and surrender to it. When you're confronted with a path that's undefined, it's normal for doubt to rear its head. In fact, it's a certain sign that you're facing your soul's greater plan. Every hero in his or her life journey comes eye to eye with doubt. The only way around it is through it. It's all part of the larger plan. That I can verify, that is true. The life that was fated for me, right? I love that she uses these two different ideas. The life that was fated for me, if you look back at my origin story, was, one of being a stay-at-home mom, a Mormon wife, giving all of my gifts and my energy to a patriarchal religion. And I'm not saying that that's not I don't think that's good or bad. It's just a life. What was incongruent, I don't want to use the word bad, but what was bad for me in that was that was not the life that my soul was destined for. And I learned that, figured that out from the symptoms my body was showing me when I started going to therapy, right? It was revolting against this life. It was telling me, this is not for you. This is not for you. And it took those years of steadily looking for answers, trying to find more, right? Working with a therapist, coming back home to myself to get the courage to be able to go, oh, you know what? This fated life, it's just not for me. And instead, I'm going to choose a life that is of my destiny. And hell yes for that, because that is what has led to this podcast. That is what has led to this community. That is what has led to getting to meet incredible women on, in one-on-one coaching, in the community, on the 90-minute intensives, who look to me and say like, holy shit, you're doing exactly what you were meant to do in the world. Thank you so much for this gift. That would not have existed if I hadn't leaned into these invitations from fear, right? And seen them not as a, ooh, and it took work, right? I think that's the gift of like having community. I had a therapist, I had a best friend, I had people rallying around me to support me and love me. And in the beginning, it was only two, right? A best friend and a therapist. And for some of my clients, it really is that. It's like me as their coach. In fact, at the end of this podcast, I'm going to talk about an episode that's going to be coming out soon with one of my previous clients where it really was that, like, literally all she had was me in the beginning. Just saying like, yes, you can trust yourself. So I really just hope you guys can feel my deep love and also like my own excited, terrified relationship with fear and with leaning into the mystery purely from a space of like that courage and trust of being like, okay, this is so fucking strong in my body. I'm gonna believe that I must be supported by something bigger than just me, and I'm gonna go for it. I'm going to take that next step, whatever that next step may be. And I really want to acknowledge and like celebrate all of you for how much courage it takes to even consider, y'all, to even get in the room of considering divorce has already taken so much courage from all of you. It takes massive courage to even consider facing your fears. And especially in this context of divorce, which for so many of you, I know, because many of you talk about like there's nobody in your lives that you've seen who's done it well. Like it can feel like a complete and utter leap into the unknown. And I want to say, just from my own personal experience, but then also like backed up by many clients that I have had, that like, if this is where what your soul is calling you towards, like the universe always has your back. It really does. And you can trust those whispers, those calls from your soul to move forward. And I want to offer that for a lot of you, that may not mean the next step is like, and we're getting divorced. If you'll notice in that part in the journal, like the next steps for me were like looking myself in the mirror and being like, I love you, Britta. I choose you. The next steps were speaking my truth and, or even just acknowledging aloud to myself, I want more. And here's the other thing that I want to say with like trusting that the universe always has your back. I want to offer like, often what I see is the universe also always has the back of your children and your husband. I have seen so many instances where there is huge soul growth that needs to happen on your partner's side as well. You know, in my instance especially, I actually had my, my ex-husband a couple weeks ago, we were talking and him just mentioning, how much growth he has had since our divorce 5 years ago. And I personally, for myself, I truly believe I feel like I knew that was not going to happen, at least in the ways it has, obviously, without that catalyst of our divorce. Like often the very real reality is like humans just have to learn from the pain. Things have to get bad enough that we're like, okay, I'm willing to go deeper. I'm willing to try something else. I'm willing to, work outside the box because what I'm doing isn't working. Like we'll do what's working and we'll like get by and we'll settle until it finally gets bad enough that like we can't. That's just kind of a human trait. And that's okay. I get it. I was the same. I didn't change until I was like so deeply depressed. I was like, oh my God, I can hardly function. So there's no shame in that for many of us, that's where it has to get. And I want to offer, I don't think there's any shame either in being able to acknowledge that sometimes the road that led us to that, I know many of you are facing right now where like your husbands are finally like, oh shit, this is really for real. And they're trying to change. Just the very real reality that there are consequences and like costs to years and years and years of disconnection, of not feeling seen. I remember feeling this in my own marriage and just having to like own for myself to admit, like for me, there was just too much water under the bridge. I didn't want to go keep doing that work. I knew there was going to be work, of course, right? And you guys have seen it. I've been, I think, transparent on the podcast of like, there is constantly more growth and more healing, and there will be the rest of my life. But I knew I didn't want to do that work with that person anymore. And so I want to encourage all of you to take some time, especially this week, this is Thanksgiving week, to maybe instead of writing down like one thing you feel thankful for, I want you to write down one fear that you feel called to face. And like I said, it does not have to mean like the biggest fear. Often like we don't get to the biggest fear by like trying to eat the whole elephant in one bite. It's usually like the smallest. For me at the beginning, that was like, I know I need help. I'm afraid to admit that like I'm having suicidal ideation. I need to go work with a therapist. And it was the fear of like going and actually meeting with a therapist. And then, so with this though, when you choose that one fear that you feel called to face, I also want you to ask yourself, what's the brilliance that might be hidden behind this fear? Right? Because I promise you, if it is one of those soul fears, one of that like, ooh, that simultaneously terrifies and excites me, there is something brilliant hidden here waiting for you. And with that, once you find that fear, once you identify it, I want you to come back to this mantra that has like been, I think, what I've worked the most at for like my soul knowing, my soul belief, which is this phrase: I trust myself, I trust my path, and I trust the universe to guide me. These ideas have gotten me through really, really crazy shit over the last 5 years. Some of it I've shared on the podcast with y'all. Some of it I haven't. But what I've always been able to come back to, and what has always helped me lean into the fear and go for the opening and the growth, has been coming back to like, I can trust myself. I can trust my path. And I trust that the universe is guiding me, and ultimately, right, into what I want most, which is the biggest expansion of myself and what I want most for y'all, because it is one hell of a ride over here in this space of bravely going into the unknown, following your soul calls, and creating lives that have never been seen before. It truly is an incredible gift to give myself, my children, and then all of you, right? And it's done through dancing with fear. Oof. I knew that episode was going to be a yummy one. I'd been feeling it percolating and just, marinating in me this whole month. I do want to like just share with you all a little bit, because I'm very excited just to like peek into the future. For those of you, I just wanted to say I've been noticing, especially with those that had signed up on the 90-minute sessions, trusting intuitively kind of how that's been working. I have been, for those of you on the 90 minutes where it seems like the community is a really good fit, I have been opening it to you. So I really want to reach out for those of you that may be needing community now before the start of the new year, to consider a 90-minute session with me, because at the moment, that is for me, that is like the safest way for me to let members in. In other super exciting news that's tied into this, I did finally find a business attorney that I am, working with. One of the most important aspects of this community for me is having like a very beautifully and very legally, locked down non-disclosure agreement for the community. And also we're going to have an end user license agreement as well. And I've been working on that for last month, trying to find an attorney, and finally found her this week. So I am not going to be opening, the community up to women that I have not met and worked with extensively until I have those two in place. But I have been opening it to women that I've done 90 minutes with. And of course, everybody, when those two documents come through, everybody that's already in the community will be required to sign them to stay in it. So that's just some logistical things, but I wanted to make sure that, I do understand that for many of you, waiting another month to get in may not be a fit. So since this is what I've already been doing, I realized I have been with 90 minutes, still allowing those people in. So if you feel called to that, if that's a fit for you, it can be. I will also caution you, be ready. I have been seeing how potent this combination is of okay, let's do a 90-minute session and then let's put you into the community and get ready for things to start opening. Because you're going to be all of a sudden in this beautiful world with all of these women going through it, supporting you, telling you to trust yourself, telling you the universe has got you, right? That's the themes, the heart and soul of the community. So, if you're ready, go for it. If you're not, just keep trusting your timing. Now, another thing I'm really super excited about is it's going to come out next week. Yes, next week. So behind the scenes, I have been recording 2 gorgeous episodes. Holy shit, y'all. With 2 women that have been previous clients of mine, are no longer coaching with me one-on-one, and have both actually decided to get divorced. And so, as I think I've mentioned before, this has been a dream of mine on the podcast for a long time to get to interview past clients. That dream has come to fruition. And one of those episodes will be dropping on the big podcast. So you'll get to hear from her. And then the other one will be a special episode that'll only be dropping in the community as a special extra for everybody there. So I'm really excited for y'all to get a taste of that on the podcast. And then, for those of you wanting to join the community, know that will be available when I open the community come the first of the year. And with that in mind, I do want to give you guys a heads up. So next week, those episodes will drop, be one episode on the podcast, the other one in the community. The week following that, I will have a podcast that I'm going to do all about the community. I know I've already been talking a lot about it, but just getting to really dive into some of the juicy details and also explain in more detail what to expect with this beautiful process I have for applying and getting in. And I'm going to drop that episode on December 9th. And once that episode drops, I will be opening up the application process, which, part of that is signing up. Everybody that comes into the community is required to do a 20-minute, Zoom call application with me where I really get to check in with you, make sure that this is a fit. This is my baby. This is, I knew I was going to love and feel passionate about this, but holy shit, now that I've really seen what it is, I am very, very protective of this space. And I'm feeling this strong, as I should be. This is a huge, incredible gift. And so there is a pretty, a beautiful structured process to getting into the community. And I will be explaining more about that in that episode. And then the rest of December, I'll be taking those interviews and really compiling a list of who the women are that will get to join January 1st. And I'm so excited. And I know, I'm pretty sure from then on, that'll be my approach for, anybody that I haven't met on a 90-minute. It'll be where, you'll sign up for an appointment with me where we'll do that 20-minute, and then I'll add you to a list, and we'll only really do bringing in new people at the beginning of each month. I like to do, one of the things we do in the community is a fun new members mixer where we all get to talk and meet the new women. So just so much exciting things coming through with all these pieces falling into place to really prepare and get ready for the community launching in 2025, launching out to the big, opening it up to kind of the big, beautiful world out there. So, okay. Those were all the logistics. Oh my goodness, y'all. So I'm actually recording this after I'd recorded that episode, but I almost forgot to share the most juicy piece of news that I have for all of you. I just can't. It was so much fun this last week, what I'm about to tell you guys. I got an email from a producer from The Bachelor come through my inbox a couple weeks ago. And it was like, hey, we've got this idea for this show. We'd love to meet and kind of talk with you and hear some ideas. And y'all, met with her. She is amazing. And through that conversation, she ended up sharing with me that they are in the process of developing and casting a new relationship reality TV show that is going to follow married couples who are going through different struggles and challenges together, or who have been or currently are considering divorce. And we totally vibed. I fell in love with her. Like I said, we chatted for over an hour. It was a total blast. And she has extended to you guys as listeners of the podcast the invitation. They are looking for people who are open to telling their stories and potentially being on TV and part of the experiment. So freaking cool. So for those of you listening, if you are interested, she would really love to get to chat and tell you a bit more in depth about the project. Like I said, as I've said a couple times, I fell in love with her. I really enjoyed talking about it, learning more about what it is. You guys know I'm super passionate about changing the dialogue around divorce. And I think a huge piece of that is what we see in the media, how we interact with divorce. And she and I talked a little bit about how this can help further that in the world. So if you guys are interested, I am adding her email in the show notes. Definitely reach out to her. Tell her that you heard about it through the Stay or Go podcast. And, how crazy would that be, right? If somebody from the podcast ends up getting on it. So if that ends up happening, y'all, we'll have to maybe do a podcast episode on that in the future. Who knows? But it'd be really cool if that were to happen. So just a heads up, that was my juiciest little tidbit to drop on the podcast this week. I'd been waiting, we talked about a week ago, but I hadn't recorded anything yet. So glad I didn't forget. Make sure and, email her if that's something you are up for and interested in. Know that I am sending you so much love. I know right now, especially if you're considering divorce, Thanksgiving can be kind of stressful. The holidays can feel really heavy. So I really want you to take good care of yourself. Okay. Really give yourself what you need, whether that's space, whether that's, just letting, if you're at your in-laws and everybody's at the table talking and you need to just step out on the porch and breathe and do your own thing, you do your own thing. You do you, boo. Take care of yourself. And I will see you next